Race Fan Brian Davis races, and you can too. Today it is freaking cold. Oh my God. It is going to be a whopping 4 degrees, I think, is the forecast for our race today. I feel good. My body feels good. My bike is all fixed up. My brain is on point. If you caught my last video, body, brain, bike, brain, body, bike, in that order actually, and I never said the order, but brain, body, bike, things are good. I'm clicking, right? I lost a little weight. Training's been great. My numbers look really good. I should have a good performance depending on a few things, which everyone else has to deal with too. The cold weather and the course. Now the course is super interesting. It is at Elkhart Racetrack in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's about an hour from my house, and no one except the course creators have had a chance to pre-ride this course because it is on the racetrack grounds. Last 2 races, brain not there. This race, brain totally in gear. No, all that stuff along the fence, super recent. But with this cold temperature, and I know they've been working really hard on the course, we should actually have a pretty quick course. I don't expect to see a mashed potato course unless you're going for passing. Then that's going to be quite challenging. This is not the race car track, much to my dismay. An often overlooked accessory for the sport of fat biking, my friends, is snow tires. Snow tires. I cannot recommend enough. Awesome. Let's race bikes and find a porta potty. Road, cross, fat bikes, you name it, Dan can win it. I'm super curious what Dan has to teach us about getting ready for the race and share some of these hard-fought lessons with race fans. So
it can be hard to get ready for some races, mentally, physically, and with the bike. So I mean, bike prep is pretty average. You're pretty, same thing bike to bike. So you always go through your drivetrain. Make sure that you're checking everything. Make sure you're cleaning everything. A happy bike is a clean bike. If you don't take care of things, even after training rides, things wear out faster. Having a clean bike hopefully will set you up well for no mechanical issues, routines, and checklists. And I think those are all good words to use for race day. I've talked with a number of junior cyclists that I see them running all over the place at races on race day. And I think to myself, gosh, how much wasted energy, and your brain consumes so much energy as well. All of this extra thinking and worrying, you're wasting energy. Get here early, go pre-ride. See how warm you get during pre-ride. A lot of people like to wait for the day before the bike race to go through their bike and clean and get everything ready. That's not a bad thing to do, but the downside of that is if you run into an issue where you've got something that's completely wore out or that's broken, then you're stuck. When it comes to food and nutrition, I know, Brian, you're big on food and nutrition. Race day, toast, oatmeal, something like that in the morning just to get something good and solid in your stomach. And then come race time, I don't really like to eat before races. If I do, it's probably just going to be a quick Cliff Bar, something that has some substance to it, that'll last a little while. And then during the race, there's so many options, and certain things work for people, certain things don't. So you got to find what works for you. For me, it's the Cliff Blocks. I really like those. And then also like drinks. There's so many drink options out there. I'm pretty simple. I mix half Powerade, half water. That's the last thing I want to be thinking about. I want to be starting to focus in on what I need to do at the start of the race, what lines I want to pick, how the whole shot's going to play out. All of those race strategy things. It's more race strategy at that point than thinking about other external things.
So do you walk, like a fat bike race or mountain bike race, do you pay more attention to the whole shot, or do you walk the finishing straight at all, or what's your prep for just the start and finishing?
Whole shots are so important.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to get to that first corner or to that neck down point up in the front of the group. So I will usually try to ride or pre-ride if it's made available. at least that portion of the course. Don't rely on other people to do your race prep. You do your race prep, you do it your way, you develop your routine, you go through your process, then that just becomes the routine day in and day out for races.
I love the concept of all the running around creating extra stress in your brain as a burner of carbs. You know, like you have to account for that. Race fam, let's get racing. Here we are on the whole shot. That is a good group of elite. This race was a little bit different. They started elite and advanced categories at the same time, which was kind of interesting. It was a great way to just see how many people in the advanced category should probably be doing elite, but that's fine. So I am feeling pretty good today. Like I said earlier in the video, training's been going well. All these things are looking pretty good. This whole shot, this is the first bottleneck like Dan was referring to. By the way, I just threw Dan in there. I didn't really give him an introduction, but Dan is a really, really good racer in our area. Actually, that's Dan coming off his bike right there in the first turn. And he will still fight his way back to take third in this race, which is pretty unbelievable given how hard it was to make up ground on this particular course. So this is at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Like I said, it's about an hour from my house. The guys that came up with the course, George and his crew from Broken Spoke, did a great job. They worked their butts off getting this course as good as it could possibly be. So this was, I would describe this course as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There was half of this course was lots of fun and beautiful to ride, single track, and the other half was this. Was this mashed potato, really slippery, goopy snow that made it very difficult to maintain your momentum, and just a lot of coming off on and off the bike, on and off the bike, on and off the bike. And it's very stressful to be dismounted from your bike and then finding a way to remount when there's a group of people breathing down your neck is pretty tricky. So this course spread out, or this race I should say, spread out very, very quickly, as you might expect. It was honestly, it was a crapshoot in the first whole shot / half, first 10 minutes of this race. If you're going to fall, if you're going to get stuck behind somebody who's going to fall, and what the repercussions of that fall are going to be. So we're just about to witness my first crash here of many throughout the day, of many. This downhill was much steeper than it looked, and there was some pretty significant ruts that made it easy to get your wheel go in the wrong direction and get tossed over to the side. So this was tricky. I tried to remount. That was my second remount. I think I do it a third time and still fail to get the job done. And at this point, I'm just like, okay, you guys go ahead. So you can see like 10, maybe even 15 people get by me, try a remount again, still no luck. And there's Caden, who recovered and went on to pass a ton of people too. So he did great in the race. And there's my teammate, Jeff Abbott's passed me by. And then somebody that you're going to see in this video frequently went by me in that yellow coat. And we'll catch up and we'll have quite a battle throughout the day. So I still had a ton of fun in this race. Like I had all this, I feel like my fitness is going the right direction. My weight's going the right direction. I have all these things to feel pretty good about. But this race was not necessarily the best place to showcase those types of things. But winners still win, right? Like I'm not using that as an excuse. I still wish I would have done better. I could have done better potentially. But I still had fun. And really that's the big thing. So fat biking for me is a good distraction. It's something to do to get me out of the basement, but it's certainly not my focus throughout the year. But I did, anytime I race, I still want to not suck completely. So this was a good example of that. So this is the person up ahead of me. I didn't catch his name and before I started recording, so sorry about that. But we'll have a back and forth battle pretty much all day, and just good sportsmanship, right? Like I'm trying to remount here, and then I get this hand of God push from the competitor, right? Like how cool was that? And it really did help. It helped a ton. And then Jeff, my teammate, just Jeff, what are you doing? Come on, Jeff, get out of the way. And that was pretty much the story of this race. Like it was so tough. All you can do is laugh. You can't get worked up in a race like this. You just got to do your best. So after experiencing this on a little bit of a pre-ride,
I was overheating. I figured out my temperature stuff. So all those things went really well. Like if you go back to brain, body, bike, that philosophy, the brain, I felt good all day. My brain, like it reached a certain point of being frustrated, but then you smile and just have fun. Okay, I got that part figured out. And then bike worked flawlessly. So thank you. Cranked Bike Studio took care of the bike the last time and made those drivetrain upgrades, and that worked just beautifully. There are some things I want to do, I think, on the brakes next, because I lost a lot of braking power. Every time I would fall, I'd lose a bunch of fluid, or I don't know, I lost braking power. So I would pump the brakes to get the fluid back up. And that sort of worked, but it was something I had to remember to do before I needed the brakes, which was challenging when my heart rate's pretty pegged. So a big part of my goal as the day evolved was, hey, can I just try to keep my heart rate at 150 or above? So that became a bit of a focus for me, and that worked out well. So my average heart rate for the entire race was 150 on the nuts. So I think I hit it, right? And you can see already this race is totally spread apart. So I am on my own for a good chunk of this first lap right away. And which was good because there was a lot less pressure coming from behind me. So I felt pretty good about that. Before the race, I felt like I had lost my camera, my gooder camera, and I was a little frustrated by that. Eventually, even after posting about it on social media that I lost my camera, eventually I found it in one of the bags that was in my car, buried in like a little compartment of that bag that I checked numerous times. But anyway, the camera made it home, so thankfully for that. But it was just like one little thing kind of bouncing around in my head, like, oh man, that's a $800 screw up there. That was frustrating, but all is not lost. So the race venue was great. I found Road America. I got in. Parking was plentiful. Got to interview Dan in the beginning. Dan and I had planned that out the week before, so that came together really well. Hopefully you picked up some tips from Dan and some things to think about for developing your own routine. I put some screenshots of the routine that I have been working on, and I feel like it's taken some changes in the past week or two, but I'm really happy with where it is right now, and it's more interchangeable for really any race, not necessarily fat bike. So feel free to use that. I'll put a link to a public link in the description if you want to check that out. It's on an app I use called Notion. You do not have to be a Notion user to be able to get that information, but I will make that available for you. So you can see I have my SIS gel in my bag. I opened it this week, and that was good, except one fatal issue there is that the SIS gel froze completely solid. By the time I went to get it in the third lap, it was hard as it was an icicle. It was completely frozen, 100% frozen. And then my bottle, because that was my only other option, my bottle was about 80% frozen, so I couldn't get much out of that bottle. So nutrition was, I knew I had a much better idea how long this race was going to take based on the pre-ride and some previous riders on the groups before us. So I figured out that lap thing much better this time. I had a much better sense of how long I'm going to be racing. So I am showing signs of improvement, right? Like I do learn from these mistakes, and hopefully you're learning right along with me. And you can see this course. There's sections where we're going fast, as you just saw a few minutes ago with some single track, and then there's sections that get really slow. This little hill in the middle of nowhere. And then there was a fierce headwind right here, which obviously you're not going to be able to tell, but there was, believe me. Again, I just want to point out all the trail work that these guys put in. They groomed and groomed and groomed and groomed and groomed, and it was bitterly cold. So thank you, the Broken Spoke crew, for putting in all this time and effort to make the course as good as we possibly could, given the challenging conditions. We got dumped with snow, like I pointed out earlier in the race. So, yeah, sure, let me a few more folks go by. Why not? Yeah, I think just mentally I was getting pretty stretched out here. Like, I don't know. You have those moments, and then eventually I calm down and I get back on the horse and everything's fine. Looking at my finishing time was interesting because I was doing like 18-minute laps and the leaders were doing 15-minute laps, and we did 4 laps, right? So that's 3 minutes that I would have to find per lap to be competitive. And let's just say I'm not even trying to win a race, of course, because I'm not apparently nowhere near good enough to do that. So let's say I could shave half that. So can I find a minute and a half. I think I could have, I don't know. The pre-ride was an issue because I didn't get a whole bunch of time to dial in my handling on the bike, and that always gets better with time. No excuse, I had plenty of time to do it. It was just so cold that I didn't want to expose myself more than I had to. So I don't regret that by any means. It is what it is, and my handling skills on the bike are what they are, and I'm not going to make them better the day of the race. So I did get out earlier this week for a really good session on Tuesday, and I did some race simulation laps at a groomed park by our house, and I felt amazing. I felt like I was crushing it. So I was coming in with pretty high expectations for this race. The course was tough, and there's really nothing I could do about that, but that's just, it is what it is, and it was the same course for everybody, so there's no excuse there. This section, there's definitely some challenge sections here. That, yeah, a lot of this happened throughout the day. Jump off the bike. Sometimes it was a planned exit from the bike, and sometimes it was not so planned. And I put some of those at the end, and there was a great finish to this race, and I put some clips at the end where you'll see the finishing little bit of the race. Now, I let the video go a little bit long this time. I know it's much longer than the last ones. So I've been enjoying watching other people race on the trainer. Maybe you're doing the same thing. So I thought I'd just put a little more footage out there. If you guys want to watch it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. So the lap counter, part of that time thing is I've changed my Wahoo screen again for fat bike racing, and then I put lap counts on there, and I figured that out. So this race was only 4, and I have proven now that I can actually count to 4. So I got that part down. But if we do we have one more race in this series. If we do that other race and those laps get up there, I feel confident that I can use the computer to do the laps for me, and I'll be in a better shape. Or I'll use the overall time and pay more attention, because that definitely cost me in the first race, and it affected me a bit on the second race. So things that, again, I'm getting better at doing. And overall, I'm just grateful to be racing. So I'm really happy about that. I'm glad they put these races together. I find them to be, in terms of pandemic safe, I think they're as safe as we're going to get. We're clearly socially distanced out here. And before the race, I try to keep to myself, and after the race, I try to get out of there pretty quick. So I'm limiting my exposure, which thereby limits my family's exposure. So I feel like risk is like burning matches on a bike. I can take a certain amount of risk, and this is where I choose to spend my risk. Otherwise, I spend so much time at my house, and it is what it is. Not the worst place to be, but it does get old. So again, very grateful to be racing. Thanks for putting the series on, and thanks for venues like Road America allowing us to come out and use their land. So thanks. So let's talk about fueling. So this race is not a great example of fueling. I did have a caffeinated SIS gel before this race, right before, about 15 minutes before, allowing the caffeine a chance to kick in. And that seemed to work, because my second 2 laps, I felt miles better than the first 2 laps. So after about 40 minutes of racing, I settled in. Those last 2 laps were faster than the first 2 laps. Clearly, your handling is going to be better. The course is going to be more packed down. So there's various reasons for that. But I felt good. And all the carbs I've been eating in training, I think, are paying off, as I'm having much harder workouts. I'm doing extra weight training after my workouts, which never would I had the energy to do that before. So I'm on the Trainer Road high volume plan, and I'm doing as well as I can expect to do, right? But I keep showing up these races, and I keep doing really pretty subpar for performance. I am in the elite category. If I'm doing fine. I'm not like upset with myself, but at the same time, I know there's people like Dan that are crushing me and are training way less than me, and there's a certain amount of natural talent there, right? I get it, and I don't have it, and that's fine. I'm not worried about it, but I would like to, I'd still like to level up. So that's something I'm going to be working on. I've developed a plan of attack to make some changes. So I'll be talking about those in the next few weeks, but they're pretty significant, and they have a lot to do with how I'm going to be approaching training in general. So stay tuned to that. And like I said, at the end of this race, you'll see a good finish. So if you do stick around, I think you'll be welcoming that. So let's just talk about that checklist real quick. I wanted to run through that one at a time here. So in my brain portion of the checklist, I have a concept to focus on positive outcomes, and whatever those outcomes are. It's not necessarily winning the race, but you have fun, you learn something, you improved your handling, you had a good hole shot, you executed on a finish. And so something I was thinking about this time is the last few races, I have not walked the finish and I have not really thought about the hole shot. So that's something I wanted to address this time, and I did. I didn't really push myself on the hole shot, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. And then the finish, I had a good understanding of you have to be first into that last turn. Otherwise, there's no chance for you can't pass anybody after that first turn. So really the finish line race is for the last turn. And going into that last turn, which we're getting pretty close to the point where you'll be able to see the finishing straight as a preview, versus what I'll show you in a few minutes is the last lap. Now in the last lap, my GoPro dies and only that rear camera exists for the last finishing battle. But that's fine. That's where most of the action is anyway. So I will hand it to the cyclic people. So that rear camera that you're seeing is a tail light, safety light, but it has a built-in looping camera from Cyclic. It's the Fly 6 camera. And I had one in the past and it worked great for years, and then it just sort of started dying out with the battery and whatever else. So I bought a new one recently, and that shipped to me after many delays, but it eventually got to me, and I'm quite happy with it. The battery life in this cold temperature is just beats the bejesus out of the GoPro and the Garmin Verb both. Which is impressive because the Verb is actually really good in the cold. In the GoPro, that's a brand new battery. It lasted actually a really long time this race. I think I got almost 3 laps out of the GoPro before it died. So 24, almost an hour in this extremely cold temperature. Now this little section here is really, really important for the last lap. So I've experienced this 3 times by the time we get to the last lap, right? And there's virtually no way, no competitor, I think, can make it through that unscathed. Even the leaders probably had a dismount there if I had to guess. And a little bit of a jog up, and then you can remount and off you go. Now that's going to come in to be pretty handy information here at the end. And we're nearing the end of this first lap, which is always my plan. Run the first lap on a mountain bike race and let you see that. And then after that, it's pretty much just me riding by myself. Now this one is me riding by myself halfway through the first lap and thereafter, but you'll get the point. I put some a little bit of crash footage after the split screen here that I'll show you. I'll still have the GoPro working for that. So positive outcomes, that's my brain portion. Positive outcomes, set your expectations, and then try to level that up just a touch, and then review your training for the past few weeks or months. And that's a good way to steal some confidence if you've been putting in the work. And think about, and even if you haven't been thinking about the work, like, hey, I've ridden my bike for 15 years, or I've raced my bike hundreds of times. I know what to expect. I know how this is going to unfold. I can still have a great performance regardless of my training hours. And then do some simple things like find the GPS location for the race, put that in your phone in advance, reread any of the instructions from the promoters about arriving, departing, things to do when you're there, waivers to sign, which was the case here at this race. Recheck your start time. Recheck your warm-up time in relation to that start time. Make sure that you're getting there with enough time and don't stress out about cutting it close. And then check the weather. So that's the brain checklist on my checklist. And regarding body, certainly have coffee, and then kit for your expected weather, plus or minus a few degrees, maybe a little bit of rain if it's looking anywhere near like it, and then pack your food for before, during, and after. Change of clothing for afterwards, and then just run a systems check. I always go from bottom to top. Shoes, socks, kit, gloves, helmet, sunglasses, all that stuff. And then for this race, I did some activation stretches and some breathing before the race, which I feel like was good. Headphones, towels, and then warm up. Get your warm up in, and try to make that consistent. So recently I've developed, I have to do a 20-minute warm-up, and then in that 20-minute warm-up, I have to do a few minute effort and then some shorter, harder effort. So this is the finishing straight. There's going to be a hard left here, and this is really the key moment. You have to be first to this corner because it's pretty slippery. It's very slippery right there, and then you get ran into the announcer booth. Now, I had that knowledge, right? I had that knowledge, and it's going to come in really, really handy here at the end of the race. So at the end of the race, first I'm going to show you a few crashes there. Past my friend Derek. He ends up passing me back. Good for him. So this is the person I'm chasing all day. There's my water bottle freezing up. There's me clicking the lap counter. We trade spots a couple times back and forth throughout the race. And then at the end, he passes me. And then I close this gap that I'm going to be showing here in a second. There, I fall again. Is that where he passes me again? Well, I guess not. Whoa, all the way down that time. Those were hard to get back from. I think I fell over probably 5 times just to be all the way flailing on the ground. I think it was about 5 times for me. So that definitely costs a lot of time and energy. Your heart rate skyrockets to get back up, get remounted on the bike. It's just a huge effort. So, all right, here comes the finishing straight. Now, after all this effort, I finally caught the person ahead of me, the guy with the orange coat and TT bars and a TT helmet, believe it or not, out in this race. So he's been racing with that getup the last couple times. So he's easy to remember. So he's ahead of me, and I catch right up on his wheel, and then I'm getting a chance to rest. So his pace is totally manageable for me. My heart rate comes way, way down, and I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Because it's very difficult to pass people on this course. And here we come to this sloppy section that I mentioned earlier that almost every single person, certainly me, every single lap, puts a foot down. And my thought is, if he puts a foot down, I got to sprint past him. And sure enough, he put a foot down. He was trying to save it, and I don't try to save it. I get off the bike on purpose. He gets tossed off the bike because he's trying to go further. Strategically, if he would have, like cyclocross racing, get off the bike before the obstacle forces you off the bike, then you're in control of the obstacle. So I'm sure if he had to do that again, he would have been wiser to approach that sloppy snow, jump right off the bike, because then he's actually blocking the lane for me to pass as well with his bike running beside it, and then run through that section, or even walk, because I can't really get by him. But he didn't do that. He slipped, and then I jumped on that opportunity to sprint around him. I was feeling pretty peppy in this last lap, actually, and like I mentioned before, I had some rest prior to him dismounting the bike that I was able to utilize. So we're going to run through this last little bit of single track. We find a rider that I get around. I get slowed up for a minute, but I do get around the rider. He is not able to pass immediately with me. So you're going to see a gap there, which I didn't realize until watching this footage afterwards. So I ended up with a really big gap for the finish. So it got a lot closer than it should have, and I'll explain how that happened as well. So we're just going to let this run out. I think I'm about to pass somebody here after this last turn. I ask her if I can go by, sort of ask, sort of just do it, somewhere in between those two things. Because I'm feeling the pressure that he's catching back up. I got to get by this. I got to get by this rider. I can't take this all the way to the finish. We're going a little bit too slow to protect this one person lead. He's in the advanced category. I'm in the elite category. So it doesn't really even matter. But, you're racing, and this is a good opportunity to practice those racing skills regardless of the situation. So I ask, sort of sprint by, and then he's jammed up there. He'll eventually get by here in a moment. And then we have, but it took him a long time. So he closed a huge gap. So this is the finishing straight right before that hard turn into the finish line. And he gets by that person. Like, look how big that gap is. And he closes it right up. That's pretty impressive. And there's nowhere to pass here either. This is very much a single track kind of spot, because everything else is super squishy. So we're going into this turn, and he's going for it because he's got so much momentum, and I don't blame him. But because I've realized what that corner entails, I push him off into the boards there, and I know I'm gonna get that quote unquote sprint. But it was good racing. It was a lot of fun, and knowing that corner helped. Well, thanks, Race Fam. I appreciate it. Our goal on the channel is to grow our sport, grow our knowledge, and grow our fitness, and hopefully we delivered that to you today. Thanks.